Good morning, everybody. Matt Modi here to give you my favorite NBA player prop picks today. We're talking Tuesday, March 25th. I'm going to have 5 NBA player prop picks for you guys to lock in for tonight's NBA betting slate. The splash zone is definitely back in your life. 2 of the 5 are plus money bangers because the board didn't quite fall in a plus money type of way, but I am pretty excited about the plays that we have today. We're going back to what worked yesterday, the who's finishing first, the first quarter market. We'll see if that works out for another day for us. We can do that. We can do a recap from yesterday. So I had 5 plays yesterday. Again, I fully dove in to the first quarter market because it had been one of my best markets this year, and I just kind of wanted to see how that would go. Now, I'm not going to make any ridiculous sweeping conclusions after one good day because we've had good days in the past, but it is going to make me want to continue the experiment and see how tonight goes. So last night, 4-1. The only one we got wrong was our king of the first quarter kings, Kristaps Porzingis. He did not score 7 points in the first quarter, but the other 4 cashed up 3.16 units yesterday. Brook Lopez, Kevin Durant, Luka, Vooch all went over their first quarter point prop. And this KP one ended up getting a pretty bad number in terms of the market because Jaylen Brown, who had been out for a while, ended up getting ruled in, and that kind of changed everything. Like this closed at even money for over 5.5. So that ended up the injury news over the course of the day ended up really kind of killing this one. But hey, we'll take a 4-1 day on the season. That brings our profit up to 27.44 units, up just under 5% ROI. So it's not been an amazing season, but hey, if we can strike gold with this first quarter market, we got a couple weeks left of the regular season, then we got the playoffs. We'll see how things go. But again, pretty confident in what we have for today. We can get right into it. Just remember to like the video, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. What I have up on the screen here is Props Madness, my favorite NBA betting tool. All the stuff that I'm able to look at, I can do using Props Madness. So if you're interested in checking them out, I put a link to them in the description of the video, as well as the pinned comment. And I'm going to kind of walk you through how I use them. Now, I don't have a play here in this Magic versus Hornets game. Honestly, if I was going to bet anything, it would be the under first quarter points for LaMelo Ball. Really, if you look at it, like since the All-Star break, his first quarter point prop is 5.5. You could get 7.5 on DraftKings. He's gone over that number 1 time in his last 14 games. He really just isn't interested in scoring. He scored 0 points in the first quarter against the Knicks, and he ended that game hitting his over point prop, which was 25. So the first quarter for him, he's always been a slow starter. Even if you look at the entire year, 20 of 46, and all the green is at the beginning of the year. He really just is not a fast starter. So if anything, it would be an under for LaMelo Ball, but that's not an official play. I do have a play here in Spurs versus Pistons, and I went right back to Tobias Harris over his first quarter point prop. Now, this was at plus 100 at ESPN Bet. It did move to minus 105. I would still take it there. No issues. And the over-under is over 5.5. Now, I really, really wish this was over 4.5, which is what it was last time we bet it, and that cashed, but the books are catching on a little bit, bumping it up to 5.5. And both Cade Cunningham and Tim Hardaway Jr. are both questionable for this game. Now, if I had to guess, I would guess that Cade plays. He was a late scratch last time, and they're listing him as questionable tonight. That game last time was against the Pelicans. I think they kind of just wanted to rest Cade a little bit, kind of get him geared up in an easy matchup for the playoff run. They still ended up winning that game. Granted, it was a little bit closer than it should have been. But Tim Hardaway Jr. has a legit injury. He sprained his ankle. My guess is that he misses tonight. Even if both those guys play, I would still like this with Tobias Harris, but with those guys out, or one of those guys out, I like it a lot more. Looking at Tobias, so you want to look at games specifically with Jaden Ivey out on the entire season. We want to look at the entire year. He's played 39 games without Jaden Ivey, averaging about just under 6 points per game in the first quarter. So that one kind of checks out in terms of the math, but it's really been a recent thing for Tobias and when this first quarter has started. Like we look at his last 30 games, it's actually closer to his last 24. 2/3 of the time he scores 6 or more points in the first quarter, 16 of his last 24 games. Now he had a stretch here where he missed it in 5 straight. But look at that, 5, 5, 5, and then 0. So that was the tough one. 5. Like he literally hit that key number of the over 4.5 in 4 of those 5 games in which he missed, which is why that 4.5 number is a really important one. But the books are catching on a little bit. But since then, I mean, he's cashed it in 6 of his last 7 games. The one game he missed, tough matchup against the Heat, only scored 4 points. But other than that, he's going over in 6 of 7. And that includes last game when both Tim Hardaway Jr. and Cade Cunningham missed. He took 7 shots in that first quarter. Now, I I don't think both those guys are going to miss. I think Cade's going to play, but he's still probably going to put up between 4 and 6 shots in the first quarter. A couple threes, gets to the free throw line, makes 3 of them, whatever that may be. That gets us to 6 points. The matchup against the Spurs on paper doesn't look amazing. We see transition, they're slightly below average, closer to average. Spot up, same thing. Post up is where they really struggle, and Tobias actually does post up a decent amount. But their defense, the Spurs, has fallen off a cliff since the All-Star break, with both Wemby and De'Aaron Fox going down. Now Stephon Castle is questionable for this game as well. He's a rookie, but he's not a terrible defender. So the Spurs team is kind of just, their season's fallen off a cliff, and their defensive rating has just plummeted. So on the season, their defensive rating is 25th, so 6th worst. Over the last 10 games, I think they're the worst or the 2nd worst, something like that. So it's a good matchup for Tobias, who's going to get his in the first quarter. And last time these two teams play, he put up 10 points in the first quarter, and that was with Cade Cunningham and Tim Hardaway Jr. healthy, and that was without Wemby. So it was still a good matchup against the Spurs, where he went over this number. Now, he only took 3 shots in the first quarter. Obviously, we're hoping more than that. Now, he made all 3 of them, but he got to the line 4 times. Now, and I wouldn't be shocked if he got fouled twice in this first quarter as well, because the Spurs defense, like I said, just falling off a crater. So this is our first bet, Tobias Harris over 5.5 first quarter points. And for those of you that aren't able to bet the first quarter market, I did have some people reach out to me. At the end of the video, I'm going to give you my favorite non-first quarter bets, so you are able to get some stuff to lock in as well. Next up, I do have a play in this Mavericks versus Knicks one as well. And I went with Cameron Payne, and I went with him on his first quarter point prop, over 3.5, minus 125 odds at Bet365. This is the exact bet that I locked in, so no line movement here. Luckily, the first quarter market doesn't move that dramatically, so another nice thing about diving into this market, for those of you that can actually bet it, is you don't really have to worry about line movement that much, which is nice. So the biggest thing here is what you see on the graph. No Jalen Brunson, no Deuce/Miles McBride. They are both out for tonight. Now, it's only been 2 games that both those guys have missed. Look how many minutes and shots Cameron Payne took in the first quarter. The first game, played all 12 minutes. Now, he went under this number. He took 5 shots. If we're asking him, if we're telling me he's going to take 5 shots, I'll gladly bet for him to make 2 of those 5, shoot 40%, especially when only one of them was a 3-pointer. And then last game against the Wizards, he also played all 12 minutes, and he took 6 shots, got to the line, took 4 3-pointers. Like, the only 2 games that both these guys have missed, he played all 12 minutes in the first quarter. And that's the most important thing here. If someone's going to play all 12 minutes, I'll gladly take for them to score 2 buckets. Now, if you look at the entire season for Campaign, this number doesn't make any sense. It's one of his last 24 games. I think it's 3 of 64 on the entire season, but the minutes are the most important thing. I mean, look at the graph here. We see more often than not, he's not playing in the first quarter, and then Brunson goes down and McBride goes down, and then you see that skyrocket, him playing all 12 minutes in the first quarter. Now, the matchup against the Mavericks is kind of similar to the Spurs, where if you look at it on the entire season, it doesn't look like that great of a matchup. They're 9th in terms of points per game to pick and roll ball handlers, meaning they're 9th best. They allow the 9th fewest, but they struggle guarding spot-up shooters. But this team has fallen off a cliff since the All-Star break with all the injuries as well. And Anthony Davis played last night. He's not going to play tonight. So you look at the hit rate from the guard position. 6 of the last 15 doesn't look amazing. This is looking at it since the All-Star break, like it's looking at it basically in the month of March. That doesn't look amazing, but none of these guys they're not grouping this with a similar scoring profile to Cameron Payne. And I'm really not targeting the matchup here. I'm targeting him playing all 12 minutes and making 2 shots with both Brunson and McBride out of the lineup. So I like this one for Cam Payne. If you look at the other guys, like Cat in the first quarter, he's kind of a slow starter as well. Like without Brunson, he doesn't really do an amazing, he doesn't really score a ton in the first quarter. Like over under 6.5. He's hit that 2 of 9 games without Brunson. It's kind of the same thing with all these guys. Like their point prop in the first quarter is priced at a line where there's no edge, really, except for Cameron Payne, and he's going to play all 12 minutes. So I really like that one. That's play number 2. Now, Warriors Heat, I don't have a play, but I have a couple leans that I want to talk about, which we're going to get into. But I do have a play here. This is our 3rd play in the Grizzlies versus Jazz game. Walker Kessler, I took him in the first quarter over 2.5. Now, you want to look at games without without John Collins and without Lauri Markkanen, because those guys are both out. He's played 10 games without both of those guys. He scored over 2.5 points in the first quarter, which I should tell you, this is the bet here, over 2.5 first quarter points, minus 115 odds at both 365 and ESPN Bet. That's the same exact bet that I took. So again, you're not suffering any difference in line movement. It's over a 9 of 10 with these two guys out, who are both out for tonight. Now, my guess is that the Jazz aren't going to do what they did to us last week and just randomly rule somebody in that had already been ruled out. That was kind of a weird once in a season, every blue moon type of situation. And that was also the only time, Walker Kessler did not score 3 or more points in the first quarter. You want to know what happened in this game? And a reason why I know it was because I bet someone, Filipowski, specifically because Walker Kessler had been ruled out. The night before, Jazz ruled out Walker Kessler. The morning of, the first couple injury reports, Walker Kessler still ruled out. Randomly, they changed their mind. They rule him in. Now, Walker Kessler in that game only plays 3 minutes in the first quarter, and he only plays 15 minutes in the entire game. And you look at every other game, especially the two since, not 10 minutes in the first quarter, 9 minutes in the first quarter. That's clearly an outlier, him only playing 3 minutes. And it's because the Jazz had just gotten fined because they had been resting guys. So they ruled him in because he was ruled out because of rest. So you take that game out, which I think is fair to do. It's over in 9 of 9 games, averaging 5 points in the first quarter. And what I like about it is we're just asking him to get 2 buckets or to get a bucket and get fouled once. The matchup isn't amazing, but it's nothing to be scared of either. He's actually never played this year the Grizzlies when both of these guys missed without Lauri Markkanen and without John Collins. He has played them 3 times this year, and he hit the over in 2 of those 3. And the one game he missed was John Collins missed, but Lauri Markkanen played. So it's never been a game against the Grizzlies where both of those guys missed. It's still over in 2 of 3, which is pretty good. 7 minutes, 8 minutes. He's probably going to play closer to 9 and 10. So even the fact that he's done it in limited minutes looks pretty good. You look at the matchup, it's fine. It's not amazing. The center position against the Grizzlies, they're not cooking or anything like that. Put back, 12th best. Pick and roll man, they're 20th. And then some of these other numbers where Kessler doesn't score a ton, they're a little bit worse. But again, really not targeting the matchup here. We're just targeting Walker Kessler to play 9-10 minutes and to score 2 buckets or get fouled once while making 1 bucket. So this is our third play. Walker Kessler over 2.5 first quarter points. Next up, you already know SGA over 10.5 first quarter points, -110 odds at both ESPN Bet and Hard Rock. Now, SGA had been on fire in the first quarter. Like you look at his last, we'll call it, there we go. That's what I want to look at. Last 32 games, 19 of 32 to the over. And sometimes he missed, like the 3 straight games scoring 10 points. So it's very close. And then you look at recently, he's been a little bit colder recently, only gone over in 2 of his last 6 games. This one was on the second half of a back-to-back against the Nuggets. So the first game scored 12 in the first quarter, went over. The second game didn't do so hot, and again, back-to-back against the same team is kind of wonky. And some of these times that he missed, like this game against the Pistons, he scored 9 points in the first quarter. He took 10 shots. Like if you're telling me SGA, as good as he is going to take 10 shots in the first quarter, I'll gladly take for him to score 11 points. And then this one, another game where it was on the second half of a back-to-back, and he didn't play his full allotment of minutes. As we can see, he only played 10 minutes in the first quarter, and he normally plays all 12. Like we look at his last 24 games, only twice has he not played the full first quarter. So we can mostly expect him to play 12 minutes in the first quarter. Even this back-to-back right here, he played 12 minutes. Even this back-to-back right here, played 12 minutes. So this one was a little bit of an outlier. And then another game that he missed, his most recent one, put up 11 shots. Like if SGA's taken 10, 11 shots in the first quarter, I'll gladly take for him to score 11 points as well. The one scary thing here is that both these guys are questionable. Jay Will has missed the last about week or so with the hip injury. He's questionable. Chet is also listed as questionable. His scoring in the first quarter does go down a little bit with both those guys in the lineup. Like as you can see, it's only 4 of 10 since February. And February is really when, I mean, he's been cooking all year, but specifically as a first quarter king starting in February. So it is a little bit scary with both those guys projected to be in. But I like the fact you look at the matchup again on paper. It's an okay matchup. The Kings are slightly above that, or they're between 10 and 20, 11 guarding the pick and roll ball handler, but they foul a lot and they allow a lot to the spot up shooter. And SGA, both games against the Kings, 12 points in the first quarter, 13 points in the first quarter. Now, one of them Chet missed. The other one, both Chet and Jay Will missed. So if you think that he's not going to do it with both those guys in the lineup, I get it. I just like this as a fade of recent results, putting up 11 shots in the first quarter and only getting 3 of them to fall expecting kind of positive regression in a matchup against the Kings that he's done well in. That is our fourth play. And then our fifth and final pick of the video. We're going to the Cavs versus Blazers game. And I took Evan Mobley in the first quarter. I took him over 5.5 for even money. This is the exact bet that I took. And you can also get that even money at 365, ESPN Bet, and Hard Rock. So really no issues with line movement here. As you can see, FanDuel actually bumped this to 6.5 for plus money. So if you wanted to go a little bit bolder than I did, take the 6.5 for plus 118, you could do that. Biggest thing here, no Donovan Mitchell. He is out for tonight. And Evan Mobley's played 6 games this year without Donovan Mitchell, has gone over 5.5 points in 5 of those 6 games. And actually every game he went over was actually 8 or more. So there's an argument to, if you wanted to go the 6.5 for FanDuel at plus 118. The reason why I didn't is in the first quarter, these points are very, very important, obviously. And Evan Mobley doesn't take a ton of 3-pointers. So getting that 6 to 7 is a key number because he just needs to make 3 buckets to get to 6, whereas it could be 4 buckets to get to the over 6.5. So if anything, the 8 number, in my opinion, would make more sense than the over 6.5. I really like this one for Evan Mobley, and I'm not scared off of the fact that one time without Donovan Mitchell, he played this exact matchup, the Blazers, didn't score a single point in the first quarter. He ended up playing pretty well in that game. He scored 20 points in that game. I actually bet him, his over-under was actually below 20. So he actually hit his over-under in this game, scoring 20 points. It just kind of came later. But he's generally been good without Donovan Mitchell. The matchup is pretty good. Like, we don't have any data off of cuts, but transition, 7th worst. Free throws, 7th worst. That's play type 2 and 3 for Evan Mobley. And of the guys that, the 3 main guys without Donovan Mitchell, all of their points go up, right? Like Darius Garland averages 5 more points. Evan Mobley averages 4 more points. Jared Allen averages 2.5 more points. The reason why I settled on Mobley in the first quarter was because he has the best first quarter specific stats. Mobley was only over in 3 of 6. Garland is over in 2 of 6, and he doesn't play as many minutes either. Like, he plays in the first quarter 9, 6, 9, 8, 8, and then 8 here, where Mobley plays closer to like 9 to 10 minutes in the first quarter. So we see like 9, 10, 10, 9, 9, and 9. So like Garland comes out closer to like the 4 minute left in the first quarter timeout, and then Mobley plays a couple more minutes. And it's the same thing with Jared Allen, if not even fewer minutes. Like, he plays closer to like 8, 7, 8. So Evan Mobley, I thought, was the best bet in the first quarter in this one. You really can't go wrong with any of those 3 guys, especially if you just want to take their full game. It's just, I mean, the Cavs have been reeling, so I can't really say that there's going to be like a huge blowout risk, but there just are certain guys that start fast. But that's our 5th and final official pick of the video. Some first quarter point props that I do like, that I just want to kind of give a shout out. LaMelo Ball full game, I think, is pretty good. It's a decent matchup against the Magic, who will allow these pull-up guards to have success against them. You look at guys similar to LaMelo Ball, it's actually not, the matchup doesn't look that great. I mean, you look at some of the guys that missed. Jalen Green, 26 one game, 15 in the other. But look at LaMelo, 44, 35 in 2 games against the Magic. They're below average guarding the pick and roll ball handler, and they allow the highest pull-up frequency against them. So I was actually on Luka last night in this matchup, and he came through. But if you're going to bet LaMelo, it would be the full game. Spurs Pistons, Cade assists is a good look in this one. We don't really know if he's going to play, but if he does, it's a decent look. The Spurs defense, I mean, 8 of 13 with the playmaking style similar to Cade. In the guard position, it's 9 of the last 15. Like I mentioned there, the Spurs defense has just been on a train wreck. Jalen Duren, either his points or his rebounds or both, are a good look in this game as well. The Spurs have specifically been getting crushed by centers without Wemby in the lineup, which kind of makes sense. Obviously, you look at, this one is rebounds, but it's 10 of the last 15, similar to Jalen Duren. 7 of the last 15 centers specifically, but it's kind of like 5 straight hit, 4 straight missed. So it's kind of been a little bit hit or miss, but generally a good matchup. And then this one game, Mitchell Robinson had 11 when Cat only had 9. So like, you average those 2 together, it's a good matchup for center rebounds. And points is kind of similar. It's only 5 of 15 similar to Jalen Duren, but since the All-Star break, and I guess since the All-Star break, it looks a little bit better. We see it's 9 of 15. They allow the most points per game off of putbacks, which helps both points and rebounds. I didn't go with the first quarter for him because his minutes are incredibly spotty in the first quarter. He could pick up 2 early fouls, and then he won't play the rest of the first quarter. So he would definitely be not a first quarter guy. Mavericks, Knicks, it would really just be Josh Hart without Brunson, rebounds, assists, RA. You want a Sprinky, the triple-double. I don't think it's a bad look either. This Warriors Heat game. Obviously, this is the big game tonight. Wiggins going against his old team. Jimmy Butler going against his old team. The biggest thing here is Steph is listed as questionable. He fell hard on his butt, hurt his tailbone, missed a couple games. He's questionable for tonight. So you want to back Jimmy. It's a little bit scary not knowing whether Steph is going to play or not. And we don't really know what version of Jimmy are we going to get. Are we going to get revenge Jimmy, where he just wants to put up a bunch of points on his old team? His first quarter point prop is 4.5 at plus 115. If he comes out early trying to score, that's going to look pretty good. Or is it going to be like a facilitator Jimmy, where he tries to prove how good of a teammate he is by getting all his guys set up, so he's grabbing boards, he's getting assists, and he's not trying to score. On the other side, Wiggins in the first quarter, 5.5, had been a smash since he's been a member of the Heat. It's been kind of cold recently until he finally came out of it in his last game with 8 points. The reason why I was scared off of Andrew Wiggins is because, A, it's a tough matchup. Like the Warriors don't allow a lot to the pick and roll ball handler, which is where a lot of Wiggins' points have come from. And you look at these 4 games that he struggled, the common denominator here, 4 of the best defenses that he's seen. And if you look at him, so he did go over in a tough defense against the Celtics. But every other game, tough defense, missed. Tough defense, missed in all of these. Like we just take out the bottom feeder defenses. And against top half defenses, it's only 2 of 7. Which is kind of like what we know about Andrew Wiggins, is he doesn't always show up in these tough matchups. And the Warriors are a good defense. So I didn't end up officially going with anything on those 2. Hero on the rebounds, I think, is a good look as well. 4.5 for relatively, for even money, I think is a really good look. Last time these 2 teams played, he had 8 boards. He had 16 rebound chances. And rebounds are definitely kind of a target against the Warriors. So I thought Hero on the rebounds was a good look. This game, I was really close to making this an official bet. It was Jalen Green, 25 plus points. You look at games with Fred VanVleet. It's over in 77% of his last 22 games, which is insane. Averaging the exact number we're asking him to bet, 25 points. And it's at like plus 135 odds at Hard Rock. The volume that he's been shooting is insane. The points that he's put up, like averaging almost 20 field goal attempts per game. Like last time he just put up 22 shots. And this is with all the guys healthy, right? VanVleet was in. Şengün was in, Amen was in, Jabari was in. Like all these guys have missed a lot of games, still put up 22 shots. The reason why I ended up holding off on Jalen Green is the Hawks defense has been playing much better recently, and they're not quite the scary matchup, they're not quite the juicy matchup that they appear on paper. Like pick and roll ball handler, 24th, transition, 22nd, free throws, 22nd. 6 of 10 guys, similar to Jalen Green, have hit their point prop over, including Jalen Green, who scored 25. All of these were before the All-Star break. And since then, the guard position really hasn't done that great. The guard position hasn't done that great against the Hawks. As you can see, it's only 4 of 15 to the over. And a lot of guys similar to Jalen Green haven't been hitting their point prop. LaMelo Ball, he hasn't really been scoring at all. 25 points isn't terrible. Harden went under his point prop. Lillard went under his point prop. Hero went under in 2 games against them. SGA, granted, he scored 31 on under 31.5, but still went under. So I ended up holding off on that one. This Grizzlies Jazz game, it would be Desmond Bane and his assists. No John Morant in this one, which is the most important thing. It's only over in 10 of 22, which doesn't sound that great. I honestly kind of like the fact that he's missed it in 3 straight, which scared me off are his potentials really aren't that high. Like we're asking him to get 7 assists in his last 3 games, 9 potentials, 8 potentials, 10 potentials. So maybe that comes up, his potential assists. Maybe his conversion rate comes up because he hasn't really been converting a lot of them, like 4 of 10, 4 of 8, and 4 of 9 is 50% or below in 3 straight games. So maybe he has a game where he converts 7 of 9 like he did in this game where it was 8 of 8 or 10 of 11. But the potentials just aren't quite there, even though it is a really good matchup against the Jazz, who are absolutely an assist team. But that's why I held off on it. And then this other Thunder game, Chet in the first quarter is a good look as well. Like you look at games when all their guys are healthy. Chet in the first quarter, 11 of 20, but it's plus money for the over. And it's a good matchup against a Kings team that allows the most points per game to spot up, 10th most points via free throws, which is play type 2 and 3 for Chet. So if you didn't like the SGA look, a nice pivot is Chet on the first quarter points. And then SGA assists is a good look as well. Now, if I'm betting this, I'm playing the over 7.5 for plus money. His assists have been pretty good recently, 7 of 19. Actually, we want to look at his last. Yeah. 8 of 15, 9 of 11, 8 of 8. So those two potentials aren't great. But before that, 6 of 15, 15 potential assists is good. 7 of 18, 18 is good. 7 of 19, 19 is good. And it's a really good matchup against the Kings. 8 of 10 guys, similar to SGA, have hit their assist prop over, including, look who's bolded here. SGA twice against the Kings hit his assist prop over with 11 on 14 and 9 on 14. We're just asking him to get to 8 for plus money. So a couple non-first quarter looks for you guys to lock in. But real quick, I'll do a recap and then we'll get out of here. All these guys are their first quarter market. It's Cameron Payne, Walker Kessler, SGA, Toby, Tobias Harris, and Evan Mobley, all over their first quarter point prop. We are risking 5.5 units to profit exactly 5 units. So not a great day in terms of juicy plus money bangers, but that's okay. If we hit 4 of these, we hit 3 of these, we're making money. Day 1 was a success of the experiment, the first quarter point prop finishing early experiment. Let's hope that continues. In terms of stuff to check out, I put a link to Props Madness in the description of the video. I also put a link to my Tails account, which is where I send all my plays out. This is how it comes over. You sign up, you get it sent either directly to your phone through the app, or you can get them sent through Discord as well. And this is how it comes over. I give you kind of like the NBA player prop, what play we're on, just in case you miss anything, you can kind of tell. Screenshot of the bet to make sure that these odds are actually real and odds that I'm betting. And then all comes over through Tails. So if you're interested, check that out. But that's all we got. I appreciate everybody for watching. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and have a good one.